That's good. Very good. That's good. I'm going to get started here. I'm just going to open up. We're on Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, 56a. Story 10. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. We're on Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, 56a. Four lines from the top. Second to last word, Yasiv, Rebbe. Fourth line from the top of the end. 56a. Nun Vav Amud Aleph. First, Mazel Tov to Rav Yitzchak Reichenberg on the birth of a grandson, to his son, what son was it again? Menachem. Thank you. Grandson. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. A lot of nachas from all of them.
Menachem Chaim Yaakov.
Should be a lot of nachas. Very nice. Okay. So the story today is from our official Schechter. He's a famous storyteller. He's also a Rebbe in Torah Vodas for a number of years. Also a Dial-A-Daf Maggid Shir from a couple decades ago. Official Schechter does the following story. Is that far? Just in time. All right, watch out for the tea. Morning. That's about to start. Okay. So the story is official Schechter tells a story about a Jew who was living in Morocco. This is in the 40s, I believe, early 50s. And he is a Jew who was a very simple Jew. He was completely illiterate. He couldn't write or read even a little bit, whatever language they spoke in Morocco. Just Arabic and French. Is that right? I don't know. Whatever they spoke down there. I think he just lost him again, but he didn't read or write at all. Not even a little bit, no words, no language, nothing. And he wanted to move to Eretz Israel. Wanted to move to Israel. I think it was already Israel then. It wasn't Palestine anymore. And he went to Rabbi Abu Chatzera, I guess maybe the Baba Sali, I don't guess it was. I don't know which Rav of that family, the Abu Chatzera family. So this fellow in Morocco who was illiterate wanted to move to Eretz Israel, but he had a problem. When he got there, he wouldn't be able to find work because it's mentioned he was completely illiterate. He couldn't read, write anything at all. So he went to Rabbi Abu Chatzera, told him, go ahead, go to Eretz Israel. Hashem will take care of you. Hashem provides. Hashem is Rachamav Achol Masav. Hashem is the one who provides parnasa for everyone. So he explained to Rabbi Abu Chatzera because he thought perhaps, Rabbi Chatzera, Baba Sali, I forget who it was not a man of the world. He was in his Svarim and connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu all day. He wasn't really in the workforce, so he didn't know about these things that, people who can't read or write can't get a job. So he explained it again to him. Rabbi, I can't read or write. So he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides for parnasa. Hashem will give you everything you need. It doesn't make a difference what you have, what you don't have. Hashem will provide for you. So he trusted Rabbi Abu Chatzera. Amunat Chachamim, like people in those countries, are well known for their Amunat Chachamim, for their trust, for their faith in Torah leaders. And he went to Eretz Israel. So back then, especially, until something like 30, 40 years ago, 80, 90% of all jobs were government related. So certainly back then in the 50s, the government jobs were government related. So he went to whatever office that he had to go to apply for a job when he got to Eretz Israel. So he came to Israel, he goes down to the office, I don't know, the Department of Employment, whatever they call it, I don't know what it's called back then. And he says, I want to work. They said, okay, tell us your credentials, what have you done in the past? He explains to them he's completely illiterate, he can't sign any forms, he can't read any forms, he can't write, he can't read. I said, any language? He said, no language. Arabic? No. French? No. English? No. Hebrew? Yiddish? No. So he didn't speak any Yiddish. Oh, he spoke. He spoke something. He couldn't read and write. He spoke whatever he spoke, yeah. But he couldn't read or write at all. So they said, read or write. Most jobs require this kind of, you have to read something. You have to read, even in manufacturing, you have to be able to read something. So they said, okay, we'll get back to you. Very shortly after, I don't know if he waited there in the waiting room or they called him back in. They said, we may have something for you. I have a job for you. So he went to some very official looking office, very secretive official looking office. And they say, come in. They bring him to a room. And they make him wait there. It's like a waiting room. They have magazines and books and whatever to sit. And he's sitting there, and they made him wait 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's 4 hours. And he's going a little bit crazy because he can't read. He can't pick up one of the magazines. He can't pick up, one of the books. He can't even read the signs on the wall. Can't even bring anything, a safe or anything, nothing. And he's pacing back and forth. He's nervous and anything. Finally, after about 4 hours, they call him out. He says, excuse me, I don't mind. 4 hours, it's much. He says, we wanted to test you. We wanted to see if you could read or write at all. We want to make sure you can't read at all. So we put in your room for 3 hours. We assume you pick up a magazine, something. You didn't even look at the pictures on the wall. You didn't pay attention to any writing. We were watching you the whole time. See, we hear this is the office of the Shin Bet, they told him. And we need someone to shred files.
What?
To shred files, to shred paper. Put it through the shredder. We want to make sure no one can read anything. So we're going to hire you. We want someone who can't read any of the papers and can't see anything. So you're hired. So they gave him a job, and it was a good job. And even not only that, after about 15 years, he wasn't a young man already. He wanted to retire. He says, listen, I appreciate I have a little bit of pension. I want to retire. And they said, let's talk to the boss. He said, talk to the boss. They said, we're not going to find anyone like this anymore. They have to hire him. They gave him a nice raise. Kept him on for a few more years. And they kept going. This is a true story. So, we sometimes we think we need X or Y to be able to do A, B, or C. We need X, not just related to parnasa, it's not to a livelihood, it's to everything. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to get what I need. Hashem runs the world and will get us exactly what we need. Obviously, we have to do our part to some extent, but it's not going to prevent us. Whatever is coming to us is coming to us. Hashem will make sure we get that. It's a very telling lesson. And fortunately, this person had enough emunah chachamim, as they say, enough faith in Torah leaders that he was willing to follow. But that's an important lesson in life. Hashem will give us exactly what we need. Of course, we have to do our part, our shtadlut, but in the end, it's Hashem who does everything for us. Okay, so you should learn to read and write. But any case. Okay, so let's get started. We're actually at the conclusion of a section. But have it right here first. Okay. Okay, so we are fourth line from the top. The Gemara is addressing that's actually not the conclusion, but sort of the conclusion of a section. We're discussing the machlokas in the Mishnah between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Tanna Kama said, if a person, before he gets married, commits to not just the regular ksuba, but also the tosefes ksuba, the additional monies, the question is whether if he passes away, for example, after Eris, before Nisuin, after this first part of marriage, but before the second part of marriage, does the wife get that additional ksuba, the tosefes ksuba, the additional amount that he committed to or not? So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said no, he doesn't, because he did it al manas lakonsi. His intention was sort of the end game, getting married. We'll discuss details about that soon. So therefore he doesn't. So the question is the halacha like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that this person who passed away between Eris and Nisuin, the first and second stage of marriage, does his wife get the tosefes to it, the additional? So fourth line from the top. Yosef Rabbi Chanina, Rav Chanina was sitting, and the Bach, also the Rashash, put in that it's Chanina Crow was his name. He was an expert in psukim and understanding of psukim and the diktuk of psukim of the verses. He was sitting Kamed Rav Yanai, in front of Rav Yanai. The Kamar, and he said, Rav Chanina Crow said, Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha follows Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So Amar Le. So Rabbi Yanai said back to Rabbi Chanina, Hukre Karach Libera. Go take your pasuk outside, basically. Don't give me your interpretations. This is not true. Ein halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Says, no, we don't say an halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So this is a long piece here, whether it is or not. So Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Meshum Rabbeinu. Yitzchak bar Avdim, he said in the name of Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu here means Rav, as Rashi says. Normally, say Rabbeinu, we often mean Rabbi Nasi, but you're referring to Rav, as Rashi points out. Second Rashi. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdim Mishur Rabbeinu Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He said halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So continue with that. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. So too said Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel, halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. However, Rav Nachman Didei, Rav Nachman himself said, Amar Ein halach Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Halacha is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Nardoi Mishmei Rav Nachman Amri in Narda, the yeshiva, the academy, I assume, in the name it says in the name of Rav Nachman Amri, they said halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. There's a lot of differing opinions here, back and forth. Va'afal gav, and even though the law to Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman cursed those va'amar kol dayana didayin Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah hachi v'hachi tahavim. Any judge who rules like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so and so will be to him. It's a curse.
Will be what?
To him, so such and such will be to him. A certain curse. It doesn't explain what it is. He will such and such will happen to him. So it's a curse. He says you shouldn't. I don't know exactly why he's cursing other people. This is a warning, but we don't normally do that, especially to other Jews. So I'm even so, Rav Nachman, and list this quote, was so adamant about it. The halacha is like Rav Elazar ben Azariah, and the Gemara concludes halacha l'maisa, the practical halacha, Rav Elazar ben Azariah. And as Rashi says, the Bnei Yeshiva concluded it's like it. It's Morin Kane. We rule that and we announce it. We say that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that if a man dies between the first and second state of marriage, after Erisin, before Nesuin, his wife still gets the Tosefes Ksuva, the additional part of the Ksuva. Okay. Sorry.
There's a note which says that there's two Rav Nachmans.
Yes, there's two Rav Nachmans. Which Rav Nachman is it? There's Rav Nachman bar something. I forgot who it was.
Rav Nachman bar Yaakov.
Bar Yaakov, thank you.
His ruling is according to Elazar ben Azariah.
Yeah.
Rav Nachman bar Abba cursed any judge. The different Rav Nachman.
Yeah, so it's a little bit confusing otherwise. It's a lot of Rav Nachmans. It could the simple reading is that it's what he actually said, but others who say that it was the name of other different Rav Nachmans. In any case, the Gemara rules, that's halacha, that halacha is like Rav Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to go on and qualify the law. Okay, so that was quite a long statement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh to last narrow line. That helps. The end of the line, the first word on the line is lamaisa. If you go lamasa, you go across, it says boy Ravin. So boy Ravin. Ravin asked the following question. Nichmas alachupa v'lo nivala. Let's say, what do you have the following case, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? If somebody, we're not talking about a slightly later stage in the process. He did Erisin, the first stage of marriage, then they had chuppah. But after the chuppah, before they had a chance to have intercourse, to sort of consummate the marriage, as they say, before that actually happened, he passes away. So they had the chuppah, but not the biyah. Had the chuppah, but not the actual, didn't cohabit together. So what's the status then? According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, does the wife get the tosefes ksuva, the additional ksuva? It's a little bit further along the way than the previous question. A little further down the stage of marriage. So let's read that again. So what do we say? So we discussed before, what is the intention of the person when he gave the tosefes ksuva, when he gave the additional ksuva? What did he have in mind? So that's the Gemara is going to ask here. Mahu. So chivas chuppah kona, is it the endearment of the chuppah, the fact that they have actual chuppah, the marriage and the suin itself, that part of it, that's what he had in mind, and that's the endearment that he had in mind when he gave the additional suva, or chivas bia kona, or was it the chivas bia, the endearment of the intercourse. That stage that he wanted to get to, that would make him want to give the additional ksuba, and they didn't get to that part yet. They had the chuppah, but not the bia. So which part is it that made him want to give the additional ksuba? So Tashma, we're going to bring a raya from the following brisa. The Tani Rav Yosef, like Rav Yosef learned, brisa, Shalo Kasav Law, Ella al Chibas Laila Harishon. This brisa explains Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that the reason why, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, she doesn't, if he passes away prior to some, in other words, after Erisin, but before the complete aspects of the marriage, she would not get the additional ksuva because he only gave it to her or committed to it al chibas laila rishon because of the endearment of the first night. So that's a bit of a vague statement because the first night a lot of things happen. They have the chuppah, they get married. That's very endearing. He's committing, to marriage to her for all lifetime. That's one aspect of endearment, but there's also the bia, first intercourse, which is also, or intercourse rather, that also has an aspect of endearment to it. So what did he have in mind when he committed to this additional ksuva payment? So let me read that again. Sorry. Tashma, the Tani of Yosef, Shalo Kasavla El Achibas Laila Harishon. The Brisa says that he only committed to the additional ksuva because of the endearment of the first night. So what does that mean? So Amid Bishlama Chivas Chupa Kona. If you'll say, like we wanted to say, that what does the husband that passed away, what was his intention? Was the chibas chuppah. If you'll say that his intention was the chuppah. Hainu da'amar laila rishon. Sorry, I skipped a line. Sorry. Ela al chibas laila rishon. So iyam bishla b'chibas chuppah kona. Just going back, I skipped a line. I say iyam bishla chibas chuppah kona. If you'll say, like we wanted to say, that chibas chuppah kona, it's the chuppah that's kona. Hainu da'amar laila rishon. So that's why it says the first night, because there's only one time that you have a chuppah when you get married to a woman. There's only one chuppah. That's the first night. The first night is the chuppah that takes place. So that's why when the Brisa says Laila Rishon, it's referring to a chuppah. If you're saying chibas bias kona, the endearment of the bias, what does that mean? Laila Rishon. Via Balayla Rishon Isa Mikan Velach Lesa. Do a couple only cohabit the first night together? They will be doing that the rest of their lives, presumably, for many years to come. So it doesn't seem to make sense that that's the interpretation of the Brisa.
False sign. You got right in the silver.
So it's all right. So he says that Mikan Velach Lesa. So it seems at this point, the logic will be that the Brisa seems to be referring to that chibas chuppah, that it's the endearment of the chuppah that the husband had in mind. So as long as you cross the threshold, as long as you have done a chuppah, then the wife would get the additional ksuva, regardless of whether the actual bia, the intercourse took place. As long as they did the chuppah, it seems to be. So the Gemara.
Could have been becomes needed for the color.
Right. We're going to discuss that also. Yeah, that's possible as well. Yeah, it could be a break. Yeah.
In the days of yore, like today, when the Kesuvos is read out, they give it to the bride.
Right.
Did they give it to the bride then?
Well, it was written right before the Nesuin, right before the chuppah, back then too. So I guess they gave it to her as also. Right.
So she's already got the Kesuvos.
Right, she has the ksuva. Yeah, but the question is, what did he? It was written. It could have been written either before. You could write it even earlier than that. The question is, what did he have in mind that when it should kick in? It's written in writing, but when's it kick in? When does that obligation kick in? Even if it's writing, you can write something in the contract, it doesn't kick in for 5 years, or it's conditional, so to speak. It's like a conditional contract. I guess you could look at it that way. That it's on condition that X, Y happens. So here we were saying it's on the condition that the chuppah takes place. Once the chuppah takes place, then it kicks in. We'll question that again.
So
Second.
you're saying that in the Kesuvos that the groom writes, the Kesuvos is yours, providing we have beer on the first night.
No, that's not right. That's a little bit too forward, and is a little bit not so appropriate. To write that. But no, again, we're working with an umdana, an assumption. Here, we have to with a ksuba, the main part, ikar ksuba is called that. It's a kind of the chamim. We'll discuss that too, whether that's true. That and so he has to do that, whether or not that's across the board. He has to. The additional, it's something we're trying to figure out what his intention was. It's a strange thing. You think that something so common, Chazal wouldn't leave up to someone's intentions, but it is. And monetary loss, a lot of things are up for the interpretation and personal way you do it yourself. Yeah, so we're depending on we're trying to figure out what he's thinking, what his intention was when he gave it. Monetary law that happens often. Halachic monetary law, mominous. Okay. So now the first wide line, fifth word in, the elamai, chuppah. So what do we say now? We're saying it's chuppah. That chuppah is. So the way elamai, you're saying it's chuppah. Or he's saying when chuppah is the factor when it says when he said in the brisa, when the brisa says that a man's intention when he commits to give the additional ksuba, the tosefes ksuba to his wife, he did it al. Let's see the exact quote. Shalo kasvla al chibas laila rishon, first night. So if that's the case, that means the chuppah that happened. Elamai chuppah b'layla isa b'yamam alesa. So when the brisa says al chibas laila rishon, the endearment of the first night, what happens on the first night always and only on the first night is the chuppah. So wait a second, we say laila, we mean chuppah. At night, we mean chuppah. Chuppah b'layla isa b'yamam alesa. Well, you've never seen a day chuppah? You've never been to a chuppah where they do it in the daylight? That happens a lot, especially in the summer, happens like all the time in the summer. We do it at night. Yeah. Yeah. They have to make sure you write the right date.
Oh,
So,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we do it all the time. Especially like in the short winters. Short winter nights, like Shkia is at like 4:40 here. If you make your chuppah at 4 o'clock, you have a very small crowd.
Yeah.
So yeah. Melessa. No, let's read that again. Velamai chuppah b'layla. Elamai chuppah b'layla isbiyah melessa. What? It's when it says the first night, it's referring to the chuppah, and it only means night. You can't have the chuppah during the day. So the Gemara asks back, Ula taimech, and according to your reasoning, you want to say it's referring to the bia, to the cohabitation. Bia balaylis, bia malesa. Bia only takes place at night, not during the day. Ha'amar Rava said, Im haya b'bayis afel mutter. If it's in a dark house, it's mutter to have intercourse with one's wife. Even though generally Yisrael Kedoshim do it during the day, but under certain conditions, during the daytime, if it's completely dark, one can. So he says, so either way it doesn't work. He's asking back. So he says on the second point that bia during the day is possible, he says, Halo kasha. That's not a question. Arach araka mashmala. We're just telling you the normal path, normal way people do things. The bia balayla. Generally, even though it's technically permitted, if it's a dark house, completely dark room, but it's generally done at night. So therefore it's at night. Ela chuppah kasha, the Gemara continues. But when it comes down to it, after this back and forth, chuppah seems to be a problem. The brisa says, al chibas laila rishon. That's the endearment of the first night, the endearment of the chuppah. If they're actually getting married, that's the point, that chuppah that he is committing to the additional ksuba, the tosefes ksuba, additional monies of the ksuba. So el chuppah kasha, why does it say night? So chuppah nami lo kasha. Chuppah is also not a question. Kivan the stam chuppah lebia, since the normal way of a chuppah afterwards, one has bia intercourse afterwards. Maybe that again. Kivan the stam chuppah lebia kaima, arach araka mashmalan, the balayla. It's come to teach you that it's done at night, even though technically a chuppah can be done during the day. But the general way to do it, the typical way to do it, as Pat pointed out, parents, the typical way to do it is at night. And the typical way to do it is at night because it's going to lead up to something else, lead up to the bia, which is right afterwards. It's done generally at night. So therefore, chuppah is done at night. So therefore, after that long back and forth, what we say is that it seems that the chuppah is the time when that the husband had in mind when he married, when he gave her the Tosefes Ksuba, the additional monies they committed to for the Ksuba. He was referring to his intention was for the Chibas Chuppah, the Laila Harishon, that first for actually getting married, actual marriage, they're bond together for life. That was he had in mind. So if, God forbid, he passed away after the chuppah, even if it was before the initial intercourse, she would still get the additional monies of the ksuba, the Tzefes ksuba. That's what the Gemara seems to conclude. Okay. So let's continue.
Would that be true on the second marriage also?
Would that be true in the second marriage? That he wrote Tosefes Suba before the chuppah? I presume so. I guess everything would be downgraded, I guess, to a certain extent. But the same concept would be there. There's a chibas chuppah.
Same concept.
Yeah. It's later.
I was wondering if he had children from the first wife. He divorced or passed away. Maybe he wouldn't have a tendency to give a Tosefes Ksuba.
Mhm.
Because he might say, if I die, I don't want, this woman I've been married to for 3 hours to get the whole Ksuba, get the Tosefes Ksuba.
Right.
The Ksuba itself is not.
Right.
It's probably only be 100 zuz, won't it? If she's a widow,
Right.
a divorced woman.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the basic, I'm talking about.
Right.
the-
I think it makes sense. It's likely that he would want to give a smaller. Most people in the second marriage probably give a smaller Tosefes Suba. It's more of a endearing, thing. And I can see why people would want to give less. And I can see a person later in their life, they probably be thinking not as long term. They probably want to give less. Thinking about what their kids are going to get and which kids are going to get. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah. Okay, so based on that, so what do we say so far? We said that the chuppah is the cutoff. As long as the chuppah took place, then she gets the Tosefes Suba. Okay, so where's the boy? Okay, here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Fifth wide line, right in the middle. The first word on the line is kaima. You go right to the middle where it says boy Ravashi. Let me just do a better job of highlighting this. To the teku. So based on that the chuppah is the factor, the cutoff, Ravashi is going to ask a question. Boy Ravashi. Ravashi asked the following question. Nichnas al chuppah, upir sanido. You just mentioned a woman comes to the chuppah and then pir sanida, and then she becomes a nida before they could have intercourse. Discussion when she became a nida, before or after Rashi in the Rush. Rashi says after. Let's go with that. So you go Rashi. She had chuppah, then became a nida, then he passed away before they have bia. So that's the case. So why does that make a difference? So let's read it. By Ravashi, nichnas al chuppah. They have the chuppah, and then Pirs Anida, she becomes Anida. Mahu. What's the case? And then the husband passed away. So does she still get the Tosefes Ksuva? Or like we're saying, does she still get it? So Mahu. Imtim Salomer, if you say Chibas Chuppah Kona, if like we said, and we say Chibas Chuppah Kona, it's the aspect of the dirm to the Chuppah Kona. So what aspect of the Chuppah is it? Is it Chuppah de Chazia Lepia? Is it a Chuppah, the chuppah marriage ceremony that can lead to a bia, that I guess immediately lead to a bia that creates the endearment of a chuppah de la chazia lo, but a chuppah does not lead immediately to a bia because she's a nida lo, or dilma lo shana, or perhaps it doesn't make a difference as long as the actual chuppah took place. That's enough of a bond and endearment that would create that he would have that in mind, that he'd want for her to get the Tosefes Ksuva, the additional monies of the Ksuva or not. So Teku, on that, we leave it as a question, that aspect of it. So we certainly agree that the chuppah is the aspect that he had in mind, but it depends on the type of chuppah. Maybe it's only a chuppah that leads to the final consummation, if you will, of the marriage through the intercourse or not. That depends. We're not sure. But definitely the chuppah is that seems to be the factor that would the cutoff point for her to get the Tosefes Ksuba. Okay. So now the Gemara is going to go on and discuss the next line in the Mishnah. Just highlight some Rashi's in there to do with the shape of this page. Okay, so the next line in the Mishnah, let's go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said before that Rabbi Yehuda, let's take a step further back. Rav Meir held that a ksuva is an absolute thing. You have to give the ksuva. It's an absolute requirement, no getting out of it, no playing games, no being mochel. You have to give a ksuva. Rabbi Yehuda says that she can be mochel in writing. In other words, he can say, give her a ksuva, and she could write to him like a shover, like a receipt. Yes, I got, let's say it's a basula, it's 200 zuz. So he writes the ksuva to her that he obligates himself to 200 zuz and invest in the event on hopefully won't occur, but if it occurs, death or divorce, he's committing to 200 zuz, and she could write back that she's mochel, but not even really mochel. She just writes that I received 100 zuz, that she mochel, but mochel in writing, that she forgoes on it, but it goes in writing, even if she didn't actually get it. If she got it, then he gave her. That is not what we're talking about. He's foregoing on it. She's in writing.
So we're assuming that this is true.
According to this opinion, working within this opinion. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because we go to Rav Meir and say, Rav Meir, there's nothing to talk about. You can't even go to this. I'm told like Rav Meir. So this is.
So she comes to the chuppah as a nida.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that. You try to do a lot of things to avoid that. Change the dates. They have hormones or whatever. They have to avoid that.
So why we've gone right? Was it can't afford the 200 or has only got the 100?
It could be that it could be he can't afford it. It could be that she wants to show that out of endearment. It's
Not marrying him for money.
yeah, yeah. It's really an insurance policy kind of thing. So yeah. Okay.
And she has to write that this, not just that she received, let's say in the case of the psula, that I received 200, that I received 200 in payment for the ksuba,
Now
as opposed to just 200 zuz.
she's mochel like half of it in the case of the Mishnah. She mochel half of it. She's the whole 100.
So over 200 be 100, 100 be 50.
Yeah, exactly. So she has to write it that, the husband's still holding on to, the husband gave her the ksuba, and she writes to him a receipt that I received from you 100 shekel, even though she didn't. She received 100, there's nothing to talk about. There's still, the money is still there. There's no mechila. She's getting it. We're talking about she writes, even though she didn't. She writes like a mechila, but it has to be in writing. Well, see, Rav Yossi, we mentioned already, Rav Yossi says that it doesn't have to be in writing, it'll just say it, that's his mochel, that's enough. But we're looking right with Rav Yehuda, has to be in writing. Adam, yeah, regular, well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be an Adam, but if you want to prove it, I want Adam. Okay. So Rav Yehuda Amar Ratza Kosu L'Basula, etc. Okay, V'Savar Rav Yehuda the Kosu Shovar. Is it true that Rav Yehuda holds that the way that you do it is you write a receipt? In other words, let's say you have a loan and somebody owes Reuven owes Shimon 100 shekel. Reuven owes Shimon 100 shekel, and then Reuven pays 50. So how do you handle that? Do you then rip up the contract, write a new one for 50 because he paid half? Or does Reuven, Shimon keeps the document, he's owed 100, and he gives a receipt to Reuven, I lost track of who's who, that he paid 50. That's called a shover. Do you write a receipt or do you rip it up and write a whole new contract that there's 50 shekel remaining? So here, from our case, we see it seems to be Rabbi Yehuda holds that you do write a shover. You don't write up a new document, you write just a shover. You write a receipt. Yeah, you don't write you write a receipt. So the Gemara asks, "V'Savar Rabbi Yehuda the Kosun Shover." Is it true, like the Mishnah seems to say, that if you pay back half, like the husband sort of did to the wife here, but in theory, not in practice, that he writes a shover, a receipt? V'Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah of Baba Basra Misha para mixas chova. Person who owes money, he has a loan, and he pays back part of it, half of it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yachliv. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't write a shover that keep the original loan document and just write to the borrower that I received half of it. But you rip it up. I don't know who gives what first, make sure you have part. But you write a new document to the new amount of the remaining amount of the loan. That's Rav Yehuda's opinion. Rav Yossi Omer Yichtov Lo Shover. No, the lender keeps the original loan document 100 and he writes to the borrower that he paid back 50. That's called shover. You give him a receipt for that. So that seems to be contradictory to our Mishnah. So our Mishnah said, Yehuda says you do give a receipt. The wife keeps the existing suva that says she's owed 200, and the husband gets a shover receipt from the wife that he paid 100, even though it wasn't real, but still. But it's 100. That sounds like we do write a shover. According to Yehuda, we just learned the Mishnah of Lav Asra. It seems like they would have to write a new ksuva, so to speak. That I don't know, but we'll discuss that soon. How to do that, but we'll discuss that soon. How to do that. So Amar Rav Yirmiyah. Rav Yirmiyah gives a teretz here. Rav Yirmiyah is going to give an explanation, and Abai is going to give an explanation. Amar Rav Yirmiyah shovarta mitocha. He says that the receipt is written within it. In other words, they write it on the ksuva. On the ksuva itself, this new Adam, they go ahead and they write that. Same Adam too. They write on the ksuva 100 shekel. I'm sorry, 100 zuz was received, or 50 if it was a almana or grusha. They would write there 100 was received. So therefore, it's not the normal case. The normal case is the owner keeps the document, and the lender keeps the document, and the borrower gets a receipt that he paid back half of it. That's Yehuda says you don't do that. You just switch the documents. But here, there's no need to write a receipt. You don't write a receipt. You just write the amount was paid on the existing document. So it's like Yachli. It's almost like you're writing a new document. You're just amending the existing document. So that's why it doesn't contradict Rav Yehuda. If you're not writing a receipt, you're just amending the initial document, the ksuba, that is. Abai says, Afilu tema b'she'en shovarta mitocha. Even if you don't have to say that. No, they don't amend the ksuba and they say 100 zuz was paid. So there's a distinction between the two cases. The case in Baba Basra by a loan, and our case by ksuba are different. And that's why Rabbi Yehuda says different things by each case. Okay, so Bishlama Hassam, by the case of Baba Basra, a standard loan case. Someone lent someone money. He wrote a star that he lent the money, and someone is partially paid back. So over there, Hassam Vadai Pare, there it was certainly paid back. He paid back half of it. So therefore, we don't give him a receipt according to Yehuda. Why not? Dilma mirchas tavarta. Maybe it'll be lost or destroyed, or an animal would eat it, mice or something like that. It'll get lost. Umapik le'lishtara, and then the lender will pull out the document that says, "You still owe me the full 100." V'adar gabe, v'adar gavi zimna achrina. And he'll go and collect it another time. That's what we're worried about. That's why Rabbi Yehuda says you don't, by a loan, you don't write a receipt to the borrower, because we're afraid he might lose it. If he loses it, the lender may just pull out the loan document and collect the second time. So we don't. That's why Rabbi Yehuda says we don't. But by our case, sorry, Hacha, by our case, by the case of the ksuva, vada yahiv la. I'm sorry, Hacha vada yahiv la. By our case, did he really give it to her? Did she really get any money? She was just mochel. She wrote that she got it, but she didn't really get it. She was just mochel it in writing. So milsa ba'almahi. She just wrote it as like not an actual. No monies was actually given. It was just she just wrote it, but nothing actually happened. So therefore, in that case, the amrele inatre natre, ilo natre, ihu afsed nafshe. So we tell him, good. If you manage to lishmor, to keep it, you manage to keep the receipt, so then good and fine. So by the case of ksuva. But if you don't keep it, then it's your own fault. You never got the money in the first place. So then you'll just have to pay the full amount. We're not go easy on you because you never got the money in the first place. So you, the husband, will have to just pay it. So there's a distinction between the two cases. Let me explain again. By the case of a loan, the person pays back half the loan, We're always concerned, says Rabbi Yehuda, that maybe he'll lose the receipt that he paid half, and then the lender will then have a document that says 100, and the first won't have indication that he paid back, so he'll lose the receipt. So we're afraid of that, so we don't write receipts according to Rabbi Yehuda. But by Kesuvos, it's different. By this particular case, particular case, he never really got the money. She said in writing that she got it. So if he loses that receipt, if he holds on to it, then great for him. If he didn't hold on to it, then too bad. He never got the money in the first place. He never gave the money in the first place to her. He never paid up half the ksuba, so I'll just pay the rest. It's not a real payback for the loan anyway. So then we can write the shofar, the receipt. We're not worried about anything because he never really paid anything anyway. So we'll write it. So that's why there's a distinction between the two cases.
Shofar is the word we use for receipt.
Yeah. How do they translate it?
So is there an alternative word where you forego a debt?
Forgo it like mochel?
Mocha.
Yeah. Yeah. Like mochel.
No, so if they're using the word shofar, that means she's confirming that she had the money. A receipt,
Right.
by its definition, is that I'm confirming I have received I've taken something
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
Right, so therefore the wording should be, I'm saying here they were saying there's confusion. Did she forgo it or did she actually get it? So I'm arguing here, why weren't they more careful with the wording? Because a receipt is a receipt and a foregoing is a foregoing. They're completely different scenarios.
Right. There are different scenarios. But according to Rabbi Huda, in order for the mechila, the foregoing to take place, it has to be done in writing. It has to be done in writing officially, or else it won't work.
Yeah, but don't they give that foregoing a different name to a receipt? That's what I'm asking.
Right. It is confusing.
Or is it just that's what it is? I'm trying to think in English if there's something.
Right.
You give a receipt, right? You buy your goods right in the market, you pay the money, whichever you pay, right? And you get a receipt. So
Right.
that's confirmation. that You pay for this list of goods,
Right.
right? You know, and if you know in good old days, yes, the proprietor of the market said, I want to give you a gift. He gave you a gift, but you know, he didn't write down that's some other document. Just trying to think, even you know, there is such an expression.
What happens if you return the item to the Makolet? And the Makolet should also give you a receipt that they received the item in return.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do it. Sikoi.
It's like, you know, also the nature of the word seems to bring about this ambiguity.
So we're saying on the Kesuvos, on the original Kesuvos, she's entitled to 200 zuz, right?
Yes.
Does she have to write on the original Kesuvos that she's received, or do they tear that up and he writes a new one to say that she's only allowed 100 zuz on his demise or defaults or whatever?
According to
On the
Rabbi,
receipt, no,
No,
one's a receipt and one's a new Kesuvos.
No, there's three situations then. You've got one, you got original
Yeah, a
kettle bar.
receipt, yeah.
Then you've got where she writes a receipt separate to the kettle bar.
Yeah.
That's situation 2. And the situation 3 is on the actual kettle bar, she writes down, or someone writes down, she signs that I have received. You've got three permutations. Is that right?
I think I followed that. Yeah. Yeah, there's 3 possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The original?
Yeah.
The original, the receipt that she's received, and another Kesuvos that she writes on it. 3, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
There's these different permutations. Yeah.
Which means if it's the third one, but she writes on it, then the original one should be torn up.
No, he writes it on the original. She writes it on.
Writes on the original?
There's only one document. Is the original Ksuba?
Like the 2 then.
Yeah.
No, you've got 3. You've got the original document.
It is 200 zuz.
Right.
Then she forgoes, so she gets a receipt to cover that. Right? She says she confirms that I've received that.
He holds on to the receipt.
And he holds on to the receipt, and she keeps the original ketubah. So that's 2. And then there's the third situation that
She writes on the.
she writes on the ketubah itself. She's holding the ketubah. Ketubah belongs to the woman,
Right.
right? So she writes on there, like that.
100 was received.
Yeah, on account of this document, and it's put on there. And she keeps hold of that.
Right. She
But
still
when it arises that he predeceases her, she needs to claim on the Ketuvos, and she produces the document. The document said, it says 200, but then at the bottom, I've received 100, so she can only claim from the heirs 100.
right.
Now, I take it all of this is done before chuppah.
Well, yeah. So the
Well, this is between
This is
Abraham
done
and this.
just before chuppah.
Busy time.
yeah, it's busy.
Busy time.
Yeah. That's why they give you food while you're waiting. Doing this. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to discuss. We had two opinions what they do. We said we write it on the ksuva like Rabbi Yirmiyah, or Abaye said that that according to Rabbi Yehuda, they write an actual receipt that the husband gets. So we said why is the difference between the two cases? Why are the different opinions between Abaye and Rabbi Yirmiyah? So here we are. It's about 2/3 way down the wide lines. The first wide line is Natre. You go over the middle, it says Bishlam. So Bishlam Abaye, I understand it goes well Abaye, who says Lo Omer Rabbi Yirmiyah, who does not hold like Rabbi Yirmiyah. He doesn't hold that the receipt is just written. There's no receipt. You just write on the ksuva that the money was received. Why not? Lo Katani Shalbarta Mitocha. In the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't mention anything about writing it on the ksuva. He just says that she writes. That was not mentioned in the Mishnah how it's done. The Mishnah just said, it says that she writes something. It doesn't say like written within. That's not exactly how the Mishnah learns it. That's why Abaye didn't learn like Rav Yirmiyah. To Abaye, it doesn't seem to make sense. It's fit the wording of the Mishnah, that they write it on the ksuva itself that the money was received. So that's why Abaye doesn't hold like Rav Yirmiyah. Ela Rav Yirmiyah, my tamala omer ka Abaye. How come Rav Yirmiyah doesn't hold like Abaye? Why does Rav Yirmiyah say that ksuva is different? Because our case in the Mishnah, she didn't really receive the money anyway, so we can write a receipt. Why doesn't he just hold like? Why doesn't Rav Yirmiyah say that? Why does he have to say it's written within? So we say Gezerah shover dahacha atu shover da alma. He says because really you could write a shover here. The idea is right. You could write a shover here. He never really got the money anyway. He never gave the money anyway to her. She just forgoes on it. You don't have to worry about that. But we're worried about if we allow writing shover receipts here, then in other cases where you're not allowed to write a receipt, like a regular loan case, we are worried about writing receipts. He might come to write it there also. The regular case of a loan, and he may lose the receipt, and then the lender is going to collect twice. So because even though technically we can write a receipt here by Ksuva where she's mochel, but we're afraid if we write it here, you're going to write it in other places also by loans. So therefore, we made a gzera that you can't write it here also. And that's why Rav Yirmiyah says you have to write that you received the money on the actual ksuba itself. That's just an explanation of why they each one have their own opinions. Okay, good. So now we're gonna this last piece. Find it and the highlighting. It's a little hard to see. Further down. Okay, Taima. This will get started with this because it's a little bit involved. Sorry. Okay. So now we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines on the bottom. First one in line is dehacha. Let's go across to the fifth word, taima. We said like this. We said before we mentioned Rav Meir, remember Rav Meir said, no doing. You have to give the ksuva. No mochel, no nothing. Rav Yoshi says you can verbally be mochel. And here, Rav Yehuda said in order to be mochel, the woman has to put it in writing. She has to put it in writing, commit to in writing that she's mochel the ksuva. And it can't be done in writing. So why not? What's the reason? And I'm going to work with that concept. So taima, says the Gemara, the cause of lay. The reason why the mechila works, that she's allowed to forego, is because she wrote it. They actually did it in writing. Aval pello. But if they just mochel it on with verbally, it does not work. Why not? The Ritva explains that that when the mechila, that she forgoes in writing. So when she actually when she forgoes in writing, it indicates that she received something exula, and it was a commitment to give her 200 zuz, let's say. And now she's writing that yes, that's true. I was supposed to get 200, but I received 100. So it doesn't contradict. Let's assume for this point, at this point, we're making the assumption that the ksuba is from the Torah here. It's a little bit jumps back and forth, but that the Torah made this assumption you had a ksuba, and we agree to that. When you put it in writing, you're agreeing to that. The ksuba is 200 zuz. I committed to it. I received a document, the ksuba, that says I'm going to get 200 zuz. But now I'm writing a formal document that says even though I received the 200 document, I received 100. She's foregoing. She'd actually receive it. I'm foregoing on that. So that's fine. It doesn't contradict the Torah requirement. Let's assume it's a Torah requirement to have a ksuba. But if they do it verbally, they just do verbally, I'm mochel, that sounds like they're doing like haroma, some sort of deception, playing games. It sort of contradicts the Torah law. You're not saying I got a commitment to 100 and now I'm just foregoing on 100. It sounds like you didn't even agree to the 200 in the first place. There's an aspect of it which doesn't show a true commitment to the Torah requirement, at least it looks like it. You're not committing to the 200. And they could have very well done it, but it doesn't look like it. So it's a ritva. It's a fine point he's making.
The nature of the word ketubah
That's ksav,
is
yeah.
written.
Right, correct.
There is a requirement.
That's right.
There
Yeah.
has to be a written document.
Right. And they
That's not like, no. I mean,
right.
if you don't have a ketubah, and be married with your friends, you just get married by beer.
Right.
Right? If they don't encourage this.
Right. The kedushin for that part, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So the problem with that is we have to go over this again tomorrow. It's a little bit in depth here. But the problem with that is you're sort of being masna mashakas b'Torah. The Torah made a requirement that you have to have a ksuva. Let's assume that for a second. Only assume that for a second, not too much longer. So the Torah made a requirement to have a ksuva. So if you give the ksuva in writing, and then you're mochel, you write, I got it, I received 100. So you're not contradicting the Torah's requirement to give a ksuva, assuming it's a Torah requirement. I'm contradicting that. You said, I got the 200. I got a document that says 200. And now I'm writing that I received part of it. You're not contradicting what the Torah said. However, if you do it, the mechila, in verbally, it kind of sounds like you're playing a game, as if you never received the 200 in the first place. You're just saying, you're only committing to 100, less than the Torah wants. And you're sort of making a condition against what the Torah said, which is problematic. So it would seem that Rabbi Yehuda says that's why you have to do it in writing. So you're not contradicting the Torah said. However, we're going to see that Rabbi Yehuda holds that when it comes to money, you can stipulate or make a condition against what the Torah said. So it seems like Rabbi Yehuda, it would be enough to make the mechila verbally and not in writing. Let me read it, and then maybe we'll better explain. It's a little bit of a complex point. Okay, so taima the kasavle. The reason why this works for her to forego on part of the ksuba is because she wrote that she received it. She didn't, but she wrote to receive it. Aval pelo, but verbally not. Because when you write it, do it written, it sounds like you commit to what the Torah said to give her 200 zuz, and now you're just paying part of it. You do it, the mechila, the forgoing verbally, it sounds like you're not even machshiv, you're not even agreeing to or not even paying heed to the Torah's requirement of giving the full 200. So aval pelo. So why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? It shouldn't be a problem according to Rabbi Yehuda. The davar shebamomanu, because the 200 zuz, which you have to commit to according to the Torah, is a monetary requirement. B'shaminan leil Rabbi Yehuda, we heard Rabbi Yehuda holds davar shebamomanu tanao kayam. We learned that Rabbi Yehuda holds if you stipulate, making a condition when it comes to a monetary condition against the Torah requirement, it should still work. In other words, even if you're not committing so completely to the 200 zuz, that should work. The Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, ha'omer le'isha, person says to a woman, hareya megudeshes, you're married to me, Kedushin, almanah she'ein layach alai she'er ksusvana, on the condition that I don't have to give you she'er ksusvana. We learned that before, that requirement, discussion what it is, we'll say the simple way. It means that he has to give her food, clothing, and he commits to una, which is to cohabit with her. Those are the three requirements. But he says, I'll marry to you on the condition I'm not required to do those. Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Hare at, the price says, sorry, Hare zemikudesh. It's a good marriage, where vatano batal. Your condition, your stipulation that you should not be required to do those things, to give food, clothing, and have intercourse, that is batal because you're being masna mashachas of Torah. You're making a stipulation against what the Torah said. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Davar Shemamam to no kayam. But Rabbi Yehuda says you can stipulate against what the Torah said. At least the part of money and clothing, you can say, I won't do it. And you're not required when it comes to money, you can make a condition to not have to keep that commitment financially from the Torah. So that seems to contradict what we said before, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that the reason you have to do it in writing is so it doesn't look like you're contradicting monetarily what the Torah says, to give 200 zuz. So why is that a problem according to Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda says, even if you do contradict what the Torah says monetarily, it's okay. But I'm going to go over this again tomorrow because it's a little bit complex of a piece. It leads into the next piece anyway. So we'll pick that up tomorrow, God willing. I'll take it from there. That's what I shall.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.